destroying Mr. Poor and poverty. People are going for Shalom Israel. Yahweh Shemi Shah Brother Thug. Yahweh Shema on the Thug by Shemi Shah to all the sisters, man. Listen, it's Captain 13,000, the card of a rhyme. Checking in with the Israelite school of I.S.U.P.K. Under Commander Jerry YAHANNA. Listen, man, this year's 52nd annual Passover. Second annual Passover under Commander YAHANNA under the I.S.U.P.K. Couldn't do it last year. Y'all already know the Lord had his foot on our president's neck.
Here in New York City, there are roughly 1,000 cases a day. Those are numbers they haven't seen since May.
Can't do it in New York this year because the Lord still got his foot on our president's neck.
New York, the center of the outbreak this spring, is now teetering on another deadly explosion of the virus.
But listen to me good. This year, 52nd annual Passover, April 24th, 2021. You understand? It's going to be in H-Town, baby.
It's going to be at the B&H Ranch, 14149 Players Street, Houston, Texas.
Y'all know what we do. Y'all know what we came to do. 2021, I.S.U.P.K, 52nd annual Passover. All the generals gonna be there. All the heavy hitters gonna be there. The daughters of Zion gonna step out with their beautiful long dresses, you understand? Strong on deck. That one West style music on deck. 52nd annual Passover.
B&H Ranch, 14149 Players Street, Houston, Texas.
Get with it to get lost, man.
Got it out the hood, straight up out the face. The word of made place. The word of turn place. You dealing with the men of war. We at war. I'm siding with the Lord of cause. On one accord. We ain't never stopping now. You running now. All my niggas on the ground.
Shalom Israel, Yahweh Shemi Shah Barakatha, to all the Akim, Yahweh Shema Alatha, Bashim Ashar, to all the Akwathium. This is Priest and Officer 50 Shar Yawan under Commanding General YAHANNA, and we are the I.S.U.P.K, started at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Today is Tuesday's night Brotherhood class, and tonight we're going to be talking about the Brotherhood and keeping Passover. Right? We've been talking about Passover for the last couple weeks now. It's coming up this Saturday, and so all Akim and Akwathium get ready for that. Definitely a beautiful time to dwell in unity with brothers and sisters. This feast is a beautiful feast, possibly one of the most important high holy days of the Most High, and it's definitely important that all of us are keeping these laws, statutes, and commandments. It's important that all of us are keeping this high holy day of the Lord's Passover. So we're going to get into some scripture. If we have time, I'll get into a video. I'll play a video at the end of the class. But let's jump into some scripture first. So when it comes to obeying the Most High, we don't really have a choice. In the Christian church, in Christianity, they teach that the Bible talks about free will and free choice, being able to decide for ourselves whichever path we go. But free will, free choice, that's a fallacy. That doesn't exist when it comes to the Most High. The way we should look at the Most High, or the way we should view life, is that this is like a movie, or a theater, and the Most High is like a puppet master. He's orchestrating everything that goes on this earth, right? Like in the Christian church, they teach that there's some great battle between the Most High and Satan, and that there's this massive war going on, struggling for good and evil. When you read the Bible and you start getting into these scriptures, when you remove the lies of Christianity and you start getting into what the Bible really speaks on, you'll see that the Most High is in charge of everything, right? There's a I got a there's a quote that some people say in the I.S.U.P.K is that your arms are too small to box with the Most High, right? Like the Most High is in charge of everything. The Most High created heaven and earth. The Most High created everything. He's in charge of all the people in it. He creates good. He creates evil, right? There's a time for peace, a time for war, right? This world is all about balance, and the Most High is in charge of all of it, right? So when it comes to free will, free choice, that's a fallacy, right? The Most High created us. The Most High is in charge of everything going on, and it would be wise for everybody to just do the will of the Most High, right? So let's start off in. We're gonna jump right into some scripture. If we have time at the end, I'll get into a video. We'll start in the book of Romans, chapter 9 and verse 19. All Akim and all Akwathium watching, please sign in. I put the link in the chat. Make sure you sign in if you want to get those benefits, get a Hebrew name, be a part of the school. Make sure you pay your tithes, show your loyalty to the I.S.U.P.K, right? Pay your tithes, get a name, start doing the work, and come join this family, join the brotherhood, join the sisterhood, right? That's what we're about. So make sure you sign in. The link's in the chat. Shout out to Knock TV. Yabashim and Shai Barakatha. Thawada for tuning in. Thawada for tuning in, sir. Definitely some good work. Officer Knock is putting out. Check out his YouTube channel. A lot of powerful information coming out of there. Make sure you subscribe, like his video, subscribe to Knock TV. Definitely a powerful brother in this truth. So let's get into some scripture. We're going to start in Romans 9, chapter 9 and verse 19. So like I said, free will, free choice, that's a fallacy with the Most High. Free will, free choice, that doesn't exist. Right? This is Romans 9 and verse 19, and it says, "Thou wilt say then unto me, why doeth he yet find fault? For who hath resisted his will?" Right? The Most High created everything. The Most High does what he wants. And no sweat, Ak. The Most High created everything. The Most High does what he wants. And everybody on this earth, we all operate inside of his creation. Right? Imagine someone telling you, try to picture this scenario. Imagine somebody telling you, I'm going to cut off your leg if you don't eat this pork. Right? Like, more chances than not, somebody comes up to you with that kind of vibe, that kind of threat, you're gonna be like, all right, goddamn, right? Like, you're probably gonna eat that pork. Somebody comes threatening you like that, right? You don't really have a choice in the matter, right? Somebody's threatening you in a way where it's like they're taking away your options, right? Somebody says they're gonna cut off your leg if you don't eat this pork, you're probably gonna eat pork, right? So imagine somebody else told you like a week before that, if I ever see you eating pork, I'm gonna put your kids into slavery, And when you get into slavery, you and your kids, I'm going to torment you. The people that sold you into slavery, they're going to torment you day and night in ways you can't imagine. And after they're done torturing you, then I'm going to take your life. Then I'm going to kill you. After you've lived a miserable life, I'm going to end your life. Right? Imagine somebody said that to you. If I ever see you eating pork, your life's gonna be miserable, and then you're gonna die a miserable death, right? You're probably gonna tell the other person that said I was gonna cut your leg off, go ahead and cut my leg off. But I'm not touching pork. I'm not eating pork, right? That's like a father, right? If anybody has kids, you're a father, you're a mother. You tell your kids, you go outside. If you don't go to bed when it's 8 o'clock, I'm gonna beat you, right? Most of your kids are probably going right to bed if they've ever been beat before, right? They don't really have a choice. It's like, I'm gonna take this punishment or I'm gonna go to bed, right? More chances than not, the kids are going to bed. That's not really a choice. That's not really free will, right? You don't have many options. And that's how much free will we have in this earth, right? I heard a man above me in the school of I.S.U.P.K. This is a general. When he was at camp, he said to somebody, there is one thing in life that you have no choice in, and that's who you are. When you were born, we didn't choose to have, right, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. When we were born, we didn't choose to have beautiful hair. We didn't choose to have beautiful black and brown skin. We didn't choose to be the smartest. We didn't choose to be the most athletic, to be the best singers, or have the best poetry, the best, right? Have the best poetry. We didn't choose to be niggers. We didn't choose to be spics, right? We didn't choose to live in the ghettos, the barrios. We didn't choose any of that, right? That's one thing none of us chose. And what's beautiful, if you're black, Hispanic, or Native Indian, you didn't choose to be the children of God. You didn't choose to be the children of the Most High Power, right? Let's go to Proverbs chapter 22 and verse 6. Let's see what that says. Proverbs. Let me go to the book of Proverbs chapter 22. 22 and verse 6. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. Right? Train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. When you have a child, they have to obey the rules of the house. Right? You have a child that they don't have a choice. Your mother, your father, you set the rules in your house. Your children don't have a choice. Right? I have a 3-year-old in my house, right? He's not allowed to touch a door handle that leads outside, right? He can't touch the front door, the side door, the back door. He's not allowed to touch it. He's 3 years old, right? He's not allowed to touch the stove. He's not allowed to come close to the oven, right? Especially when we're cooking. We're taking food out, trying to set the table for everybody to eat. Can't come close to the stove, the oven, right? He doesn't have a choice. He can't do it, right? That's for his protection. And when he gets a little older, right, he's going to get a little more freedom. We're going to get a little more responsibility. Inside my house, he is never allowed to bring pork in this house. You're not bringing pork in this house. You're not eating pork in this house. This is my house. This is the rules of my house. Right? Child in my house, you don't have choices. Right? I had when I was growing up, or when I was young, when I was in the second grade, um, I remember this. The second grade, I had a friend who was a devil, right? And his mom told me, this is back when we were in the second grade, his mom told me, you two can be friends now, but when you get older, you guys can't hang out. You guys can't be friends, right? That was a devil in the world that told me that. And yeah, I mean, as a little kid that didn't know any better, ran home crying to my mom. This person's mom said I can't hang out with him when I get older, right? That was the rules of her house, right? And in my house, right, like I'm getting ready to say to my kids, my sons, my daughters, you can't bring no Moabites in my house. You can't bring no dirty Hamites in my house. You can't bring no tongue fork devils in my house. This is my house. These are my house, my rules. What I say goes, right? And when you get older, if you want to go ahead and do whatever things you want to do, I'm going to let you know the consequences that is going to come with you making poor decisions, right? When my children get older, I'm going to let them know, if you decide not to listen and obey me, keep the law, statutes, of the commandments of the Most High because you're a child of God, right? I'm going to let you know the consequences of your actions, right? But while you're growing up, so long as you're in this house, you're keeping the rules that I lay down. You don't have a choice. And when you get older, because you're a child of God, because you're Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian, I'm going to let you know, if you make poor decisions, these are the punishments that are going to come by disobeying the Most High, your Father, right? And God forbid any of my kids get older and marry somebody from another nation, right? This class is about the Passover, right? We're gonna get more into that as we go on. If any of my kids, you decide to marry somebody from another race, when you get older and you leave this house, you're never coming to my Passover bringing a heathen into this Passover. Because in my house, we have rules. In my house, we obey the Most High, Yahweh. We obey him. We follow Christ. We follow Commanding General YAHANNA. We follow the I.S.U.P.K. Right? You go and decide to marry a heathen, you're not coming to our Passover. It's not happening. You want to go ahead and live lawlessly and smoke your weed and do this and that, I'm going to let you know the punishments that come along with it. Right? You decide not to follow the Most High, you're going to live a life that leads to death. There's consequences for your actions. That if you obey the Most High, you live. Right? It's not really a choice. You listen, you get blessed. You don't listen, you get cursed. Right? We don't choose who we are when we come into this earth. We don't choose who our parents are. We don't choose if we have black skin or white skin. We don't choose if we're born from an Israelite father or if we're born from a Moabite father, right? We don't have a choice in that. So if you're Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian, it is wise for you to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. It's wise for you to teach your kids to keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Because you get blessings or curses, blessings or punishments, right? It's not much of a choice. And again, let me read that verse again. This is Proverbs 22:6. It says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart. You should train up a child the way he should go. Let your kids know what they should do. And if you don't, a life of misery is going to come your way, right? You listen, you get blessed. If you don't listen, you get cursed, right? Let's jump to Ephesians 6 and verse 4. In the New Testament, we're going to go Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 4. And it says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath. But the opposite of that, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Right? And what that means is, how do you break that down? Rather than provoking your kids to wrath, train them up in the way they should go. You gotta teach your kids the laws, statutes, and commandments. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian, teach your kids the laws, statutes, and commandments. Right? It says, bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. You gotta nurture your kids. Meaning, nurture is to nurse them, give them milk. Right? And as they get older, give them meat. Right? That means as your kids get older, right, you got to turn them into men and women. Right? It's in Isaiah, what's that verse? I think Isaiah chapter 28 verse 14. Right? It's like, who will the Most High teach and give knowledge to? Him that is weaned from the breast. Right? You start off on milk like a baby. That's how you learn knowledge. You got to be baby-like, childlike. And that milk is the law, statutes, and commandments. Right? That's how we got to nurture our kids. We start them off with milk. Teach them the law. Teach them that it's wrong to be a drug dealer. Wrong to prostitute women. Right? Teach them to honor their parents. Teach them not to do drugs or sell drugs, not to steal. That's milk. When your kids are babies, give them that milk. When they get a little older, when they start becoming men and women, right? Teach them to be men and women. Start giving them meat. Start teaching them about brotherhood, sisterhood, right? Start teaching them about suffering for their family. Teaching them about true love, right? To war with their flesh, right? That's how we got to nurture these kids, our kids. Because if we don't nurture our kids, if we don't give them milk, start them off on milk and then give them meat, they're going to end up in hell. They're going to feel the Lord's wrath. And they're going to grow up angry because we made them angry. That's what it means to provoke our children to wrath. Right? I'll read that again. Verse 4, it says, and ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Right? There's women who were molested as children because their parents sent them to Sunday school or let them hang out with Deacon so-and-so, who's their uncle. And because their parents trusted in Christianity and they taught their daughters Christianity, that daughter grew up angry. She grew up hating the Bible, right? Every time she hears the Bible, she thinks of the man that molested her, right? Don't teach your kids Christianity. Don't teach your kids to be whores. Don't teach your daughters to be whores. Don't teach your sons to be drug dealers, right? Because that's provoking them to wrath. When they get older, they will be angry, right? Because of the wrath that the Most High puts in their life. We don't have a choice the way we're born, right? I didn't choose to be an Israelite. I didn't choose to be from the tribe of Benjamin. I didn't choose who my father was, right? I couldn't choose that. That's how I came into this world. And because of that, I have punishments, I have curses. I obey the Most High or I get punished, right? It's not much of a choice. It's not much free will, right? Your child does what they are told to do, right? Like, I'm not old or anything like that. I'm starting to get a little older, and a lot of people in my generation, a lot of people older than me, a lot of people say when they're adults, they give thanks that their parents beat them. They gave thanks that their parents disciplined them, right? Um, I know a story of a woman who, when she was around 8 years old, and there was this ball that was, I guess she was out playing in the front yard with a boy, somebody around her age, right? Your little kids, you're playing. Maybe she was kicking a soccer ball or shooting, playing basketball, shooting hoops or whatever it may be, and the ball went and rolled out on the road, right? I know growing up, I played ball all the time on the road, or you play ball on the driveway, and I mean that ball just goes and flies in the middle of the road. Well, this woman, when she was a child, when that ball rolled out on the road, she ran out, and when she hit the curb, she stopped because she immediately remembered that ass whooping that she got anytime she went near the road. She immediately remembered getting beat. And she stopped as soon as she got to the curb. She's like, nah, my parents gonna beat me if I go out on this road. And the little boy that she was playing with, he didn't get that beating. That little boy ran out on the road, car came, hit him. This child dies at the age of 8 years old. Right? Like, I know so many people that are thankful for getting beat when they were kids. In this life, we don't have free will. We don't have choice. It's important to discipline your kids. I'm not, and just to say, nobody in the I.S.U.P.K is saying to abuse your kids. You know what I mean? Go ape shit on your kids or anything like that, right? I know a couple of horror stories, but what I am saying is you got to show kids the reality of this world, right? And specifically to Blacks, Hispanics, or Native Indians, you listen to the Most High or you get cursed, right? You listen or you get punished. You get blessed or you get beat, right? You choose life or you choose death, right? That little girl that day, she chose life, right? She chose to listen to her parents. And that's how we got to view the Most High. The Most High is our Father. We're His children, right? We got to obey what He says. Not like the Christian church who tries to turn God into some bitch, excuse my language, But the Most High has rules. He has laws, right? In his house, this is how we are to operate. And that's what we got to teach our kids, right? You don't really have a choice. And where should we go with that? Let's read that again. This is Ephesians 6 and verse 4. It says, "And ye fathers, provoke not your children to wrath, but bring them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord." Right? Like, you teach your kids to live right. When they get older, they're not gonna live a life of wrath. They're not gonna live a life of misery. Right? They're not gonna make bad decisions. They're gonna listen and they're gonna obey the Most High. Right? And that's what provoking your child to anger means. Right? You shouldn't be a parent letting your kids have choice, right? If you think that your kids are free to make their own choices and stuff like that, you're not ready to be a parent, right? And if you're an adult who thinks you have free choice, you're still childlike. That's how your mentality is. You're still thinking like a child, right? You're not ready to have kids because we don't have a choice in whatever we want to do, right? Like, for me, if I don't make money, I don't eat, right? That means I don't have a choice. I gotta say yes, massa, to my boss, or I gotta run game on some rich woman, or I gotta be a criminal, right? Nobody taught me anything else on how to make money. And if you're an adult who thinks you have free will, you're somebody who needs more restriction in your life because you still need to learn the benefit of not being wild or being undisciplined. We don't have free choice and free will in this life, right? You could say we live in a box, we operate in a box, right? The Most High has a will. We're His creation and we live within His creation. We operate within that, right? If I don't make money, I don't eat. That's not a choice. You know what I mean? I gotta go make money. Let's go to let's go to the book of Joshua, chapter 24 and verse 15. Joshua 24 and verse 15. It says, "And if it seem evil unto you to serve Yahweh, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell." Slack. Let's read that again. Verse 15. "And if it seems evil unto you, serve the Lord. Choose you this day whom you will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh." Right? As a child, you don't have a choice what faith you want to practice or what religion you want to keep. Right? You don't have a choice what gender you want to be. And as an adult, the only thing that changes is you're out of your parents' care. Oh, Salakia.
Hey, Shalom, Adawadi. How about you, Shai Brakatah?
Shalom, Trooper Sakad, Yahbashim Shai Barakatah. We're just in the book of Joshua, chapter 24 and verse 15. If you could grab that Baba Kasha, just read that from the top. Today's
Khan,
class
sir,
is
Joshua.
about Khan. If you got it, go ahead.
24 and 15. Joshua, you said?
Khan.
Okay. It's the book of Joshua, 24, verse 15. And if it seem evil unto you to serve the Lord, choose ye this day whom ye will serve, whether the gods which your fathers served that were on the other side of the flood, or the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord.
Yeah, we will serve Yahweh. Like I said, we don't have a choice. All right. I was saying, when you're a child, you don't choose what religion you are. Right? You don't get to choose whether you're a boy or a girl. You don't get to choose if you're a Moabite, an Ammonite, an Amalekite, a Hamite, or an Israelite. You are what you are. You don't have a choice, right? And I was saying, as an adult, the only thing that changes when you get older is you're out of your parents' care, right? That's the only thing that changes when you're an adult. You don't get free will, free choice. You don't get to do whatever you want to do, right? You just grow up and you just feel more if you make bad decisions. And this is a good precept to say, you're going to choose today. You're going to choose whether you live or whether you die. Will you serve the God of your fathers on the other side of that flood? Or are you going to serve the gods of the heathen, of whose land you're in? Right? You're going to choose to be a Christian or serve Islam or Muhammad, whatever his name is? Or are you going to choose the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Right? Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, your God, your father is Yahweh. Right? And you learn about him from reading the Bible, the 1611 King James Version. Right? But you can go ahead and choose, right? Choose today. Right? But in my house, like I said, we're going to serve Yahweh. My kids aren't eating shrimp, crab, or lobster. My kids aren't celebrating birthdays. My kids aren't celebrating Christmas, celebrating Easter. My kids are keeping the Lord's Passover. They don't have a choice. Right? And when you get older, if you want to play Russian roulette with your life, go ahead. Right? But again, for my house, I'm going to choose life. I'm going to choose to live. Right? I'm going to choose to eat, to breathe, to walk, to talk. Right? Without having a wheelchair or an air tank to help me live. Right? Or Slakia, Trooper Sakai. What do they call that when what happens to people who smoke? They put that hole in their throat. I forget what that's called.
It's crazy. I don't know what it is either right now. Let's just call it the hole in the throat. And nobody wants one of those, right?
God. Yeah, I can't remember what that's called. But nobody wants to live like that, right? That's death. That's a miserable life. Right? Me and my host, we're gonna choose to live. Salakia, can you grab Exodus chapter 5 and verse 1? Baba Kasha? Oh, I'm right there. Yeah, Exodus chapter 5 and verse 1.
Go on, sir. I have it.
Khan, go ahead.
Exodus 5, verse 1. And afterward, Moses and Aaron went in and told Pharaoh, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, Let my people go, that they may hold a feast unto me in the wilderness.
Right. So, as for me and my house, we're gonna serve the Lord. My kids, we're gonna keep the Passover. Right? We're gonna choose life. And when they get older, they can do whatever they want, right? But they know that punishments or curses are gonna come. Right? Blessings or curses are gonna come. And that's what I gotta do as a good parent. Right? I gotta train my child up in the way of the Lord. And in Exodus 5:1, it's saying Moses asked Pharaoh if he could have just 3 days off, right? The children of Israel, they were laboring. And Moses asked Pharaoh if they could have 3 days off so that Israel could go and keep the feast in the wilderness, right? Keep reading.
Go on, sir. And Pharaoh said, who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice to let Israel go? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go.
Right. So Pharaoh said, like, who the hell is this? Right? Who is this power that I should obey? Right? Like, why should I let y'all go for 3 days? That's what Pharaoh was saying. Pharaoh was prideful, right? He was like, what's that guy's name? Donald Trump, right? He's sitting there like Donald Trump, all prideful, like he's the man in charge, right? Nobody can touch him. He can do what he wants. And he was looking at Moses like, what? What are you talking about, man? Get your ass to work, right? Keep reading.
Verse 3. And they said, the God of the Hebrews hath met with us. Let us go, we pray thee, 3 days into the desert, 3 days' journey into the desert, and sacrifice unto the Lord our God, lest he fall upon us with pestilence or with the sword.
Keep reading.
Verse 4. And the king of Egypt said unto them, wherefore do ye, Moses and Aaron, let the people from their works, get you unto your burdens.
All right. Get you unto your burdens. Pharaoh said, get your black ass back to work. Right? And when Pharaoh said this, the Lord was thinking, so you don't know who I am, right? Like the Lord's thinking, I'm going to show you something, Pharaoh. Like you're telling my children, get your ass back to work. I'm going to show you who I am, right? And this is 2021. The Lord showed Egypt something that 4,000 years later, the world still talks about. The world still knows, right? The Lord showed Pharaoh something so powerful that the world is still speaking about it 4,000 years later, right? Let's jump to Exodus chapter 7 and verse 1.
Go on, sir, I have it.
Go ahead.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 7, verse 1. And the Lord said unto Moses, see, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet.
Read.
Verse 2. Thou shalt speak all that I command thee, and Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land.
Keep reading.
Verse 3. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt.
Right. Keep reading.
Verse 4. But Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt, and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments.
Right, by great judgment. Right? After Pharaoh talked all that shit to Moses, to the children of Israel, the Lord said, I will deliver my people Israel by great judgment. Right? I'm going to judge Egypt. And when I'm done, Pharaoh's going to know who I am. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 6.
Salakia, verse 5.
Slakia, verse 5. Verse 5. Slakia.
Come.
And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt, and bring out the children of Israel from among them.
Right. And you got to think about this, right? Like, Most High freed Israel by great judgment, right? And this is how the world is looking at Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians today. Like, the pharaohs that are above us, the leaders that are above us, the people that are in charge, the kings, right? They look at Israel today like we're weak, right? They don't respect us. You look at what they're doing to us, how they treat us, how they view us. These nations of people, they have no respect for the children of Israel today, right? And you gotta think about this. Like, what? How do I say this? If you wanted to gain respect, you're Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian. You want to gain respect from other nations of people. You gotta look at it like, look at it like the bully on the schoolyard playground, right? Like, Trooper Sakata, imagine you're at that school playground, that bully's out there, and you come around one day and you knock this dude out, right? Like, you're gonna get the respect from the people,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
You knock that bully out, everybody's gonna be looking at you like, okay, this man stood up. This man won that war. This man won that battle, right? And you're gonna get the respect of the people. And that's something that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are missing today, right? We don't have our own land. We don't have our own army. We don't have our own governing body, right? Like, we're just at the bottom getting bullied. We're at the bottom getting oppressed, living in the barrios, the ghettos, the reservations. And these nations don't respect us, right? But back in this time, the Lord sent plague after plague after plague to Egypt, right? And he gave Pharaoh a chance to recognize who the Lord was, who he was with. He gave him a chance to basically respect the children of Israel. He
Right.
gave Pharaoh a chance to respect his power. And he gave Pharaoh that chance before he just came with that great judgment, right? And the Lord said to Pharaoh, or not to Pharaoh, but the Lord said, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart so that I can put him to death. Right? I gave him chance after chance after chance to leave my people alone. He didn't do it. I'm going to harden his heart. I'm going to kill Pharaoh. I'm going to take the Egyptians out. Right? Let's jump to Exodus chapter 11 and verse 4.
Come on, sir. I have it.
Go ahead.
This is the book of Exodus, chapter 11, verse 4. And Moses said, Thus saith the Lord, about midnight will I go into the midst of Egypt. Verse 5. And all the firstborn in the land of Egypt shall die, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sitteth upon his throne, even unto the firstborn of the maidservant that is behind the mill, and all the firstborn of beasts.
Keep reading.
Verse 6. And there shall be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt.
Right. There'll be a great cry throughout all the land of Egypt. Right? Like the Most High was done. He hardened Pharaoh's heart and he went and slaughtered the Egyptians. Right? He took that bully out. Right? He showed the world, he showed Egypt, he showed Israel, right, the power that he had. He showed people the power that Israel had on their side. Right? And we got to remember this when we start getting into the Passover, right? Passover is coming up this Saturday, the Lord's annual Passover. It's going to be held in Houston, Texas, under Commanding General YAHANNA. And we got to be in the spirit and recognize that this great slaughter came so that Israel could be free. This was a time where other nations started to respect the children of Israel. Right? Let's jump to Exodus chapter 12. We'll start at verse 1.
Khan. This is the book of Exodus, chapter 12, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, verse 2, This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you.
Keep reading.
Verse 3, Speak ye unto the congregation of Israel, saying, In the 10th day of this month they shall take to them every man a lamb, according to the house of their fathers, a lamb for an house.
Read.
And if the household, Salakia, verse 4, and if the household be too little for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next unto his house take it, according to the number of the souls. Every man according to his eating shall make your count for the lamb.
Right. So what this is saying is, because we're getting ready to celebrate the Lord's Passover, right? And we're supposed to have a lamb to a house, meaning like each household is supposed to go and buy a lamb, right? Because that's what you're going to cook and that's what you're going to eat. And if your household is small, right, like you and your neighbor can come together and y'all can eat some of that lamb together, right? That's an old Israelite custom, right? Keep reading.
Verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. Ye shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats.
Read.
Verse 6. And ye shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month. And the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening.
Right. So on the 14th day of the first month, you're supposed to kill the lamb, right? And let me just say, in the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General YAHANNA, right, the generals sit down and they map out what days that we are to keep the Lord's Passover, right? According to this Bible, right? We have good leadership. They map out our high holy days when we're supposed to keep it. And this is what we got to obey, right? And so, like right now, this is the instruction that Moses was giving us. The Lord was giving Moses to tell the children of Israel how we're going to keep this first Passover, right? This is the first Passover that the children of Israel were going to keep, right? And that's what Israel kept right up until Christ came, right? They would kill the lamb, and now that Christ comes, Christ was our last Passover, right? So the sacrifice that we used to do, it's not required anymore, right? And so we kill, like in the I.S.U.P.K, we kill the lamb to keep the feast, right? It's a remembrance and it's a memorial. So it's not like killing the lamb has the power of the sacrifice, right? It doesn't have the power of the sacrifice it once did. It's more so today we're just rehearsing the righteous acts, right? And we're keeping the feast. That's what Christ told us to do, right? Keep reading.
Verse 7. And they shall take of the blood and strike it on the two side posts and on the upper door post of the houses wherein they shall eat it.
Right. So the Israelites, what they were doing for this first Passover is they would take the blood of the lamb and they would put it on the side of the doorposts and above the top of the door. They put it on top of the doorpost, right? Keep reading.
Verse 8. And they shall eat the flesh in that night,
Right.
roast with fire and unleavened bread, and with bitter herbs they shall eat it.
Right. So at this time, they were going to roast the lamb whole with unleavened bread. And the reason we were using unleavened bread was because we didn't have a whole day to sit and wait for the bread to rise, right? Like the Most High just finished, he was about to just slaughter all the Egyptians, right? Like you read, I think it was in verse 11 or verse 4. He killed all the firstborns, right? And there was a loud cry that went out. And so after this took place, the children of Israel, we didn't have a lot of time, right? You can kind of picture the scene where there's this great cry that goes out. There's this great sorrow that's coming from the Egyptians. And this anger is about to boil up in the Egyptians where they're ready to go to war, right? So at this time, we didn't have much time. We didn't have all the time in the world to like make this fancy feast and whatever, right? We didn't have time to just get this bread ready with some yeast, let it rise, have some nice fluffy bread or whatever. We just put something quick together and we had this unleavened bread, right? That's why we had unleavened bread. Keep reading.
This is verse 9. Eat not of it raw, nor sodden at all with water, but roast with fire, his head with his leg, and with the pertinence thereof.
Right.
Verse 10.
So the whole thing is the whole lamb, it's gonna roast on the fire, right? Seasoned with bitter herbs. We had things like hyssop and or bitter herbs is like, picture something like garlic or thyme, right? And we were gonna season it with a certain type of seasoning, right? Keep reading.
Verse 10. And ye shall let nothing of it remain until the morning, and that which remaineth of it until the morning, ye shall burn with fire.
Right. So these were the instructions for the first Passover, right? And they ate this first Passover in haste, in a hurry, right?
Right.
The fire. Keep actually slack it. Keep reading. Read verse 11.
Verse 11. And thus shall ye eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover.
Right. So this first Passover, they ate it in haste, right? They ate it in a hurry. And how should I say this? They ate it in haste with their weapons on, right? They ate it in haste with their garments. And today, like now we can take the food home, but we still eat in haste, right? At the Passover under commanding General YAHANNA, you're gonna see brothers with their swords, their axes, their garments, their war apparel on, right? Eating in haste because we're rehearsing those righteous acts, right? And we don't have to burn today what remaineth because we don't do that sacrifice anymore, right? Now that Christ came, Christ is our Passover, right? Christ was our last sacrifice, right? And so we're not doing that sacrifice like we used to do, right? Keep reading. Salakia. So we're at verse 11 and it says, and thus shall ye eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And ye shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover, right? So having your loins, no sweat. I just read verse 11 for you. We're going to keep going. So it just, having your loins girded is like pulling your belt tight, right? Having your garment on and your weapon in your hand. Go ahead and read verse 12, Baba Kasha.
Verse 12. For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord.
Right. And so we did this, right? We were preparing ourselves. We were staying ready with our war apparel on, with our garments on, our weapons ready, because Egypt was about to know that the God of Israel just killed all their firstborn, right? And so we had to be prepared for the Egyptians, right? We had to be prepared for the Egyptians coming after us because the Most High just slaughtered all the firstborn, right? And we didn't just do it because we were getting ready, but like I said, free will, free choice, that's a fallacy, right? The Most High ordered us to do it. The Most High ordered Moses to tell us to do it, right? And the Lord has a reason for everything he does, right? Like, try to imagine today, like Salakia, Trooper Sakai, you're near downtown Toronto. Imagine today all the firstborn from the Canadian government just died, right?
Yeah.
Just in the blink of an eye. The police dropped dead, the store clerks dropped dead, lawyers, you know what I mean, people driving on the road, all the firstborn just died, right? Like that.
It'd be maddening.
That's a hard thing to imagine. You know what I mean? Like cars smashing into each other because people just dropping dead behind their wheel.
There'd be a lot of crying. That's for sure.
That's it. That's exactly it, right? A loud cry.
Yeah.
Right?
So
So,
definitely.
and then imagine the president just sitting there and just witnessing all this death, these cries going out, this chaos going on because everybody was just slaughtered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like at that point, the president would probably be looking at us like, no, that wasn't, there's no way God just did that to us. Right?
They try to blame it on the devil.
They'd blame it on us.
That's right. That's true. We would
Black
definitely be at fault
Blacks,
somehow.
Hispanics, and Native Indians are the only ones living. Nothing happened to us. They'd be looking at us like, yo,
Hold on.
there's some terrorism going on right now.
Biological terrorism. You guys did it.
God, so
My head.
so at that time, Pharaoh was looking at us like, nah, God didn't do this. It must have been the Israelites, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why when we were commemorating the Passover, that's why when we were holding that first feast, we had our war apparel on and ready, right? We had our loins girded. We had our weapons with us. And I don't see any other group outside of I.S.U.P.K memorializing the Passover like this. I don't see any other group wearing warlike apparel on with their weapons, right? Eating in haste, having true brotherhood, commemorating the Lord's Passover. This is what we got to teach our kids to do. This is what we got to do, right? Let's jump down to verse 26. Exodus 12 and 26.
Verse 26. And it shall come to pass, when your children shall say unto you, what mean ye by this service?
Right. There's a day, Trooper Sakad, your kids are gonna come to you and be like, why are we keeping the Passover? Right?
Mhm.
In my house, my kids don't have a choice. They're going to keep the Lord's Passover every year. They're going to keep all the law, statutes, and commandments. Right? And as they get a little older, they're gonna look at me and say, why are we doing this? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Shalom, officers of Badia. Yabashim and Shai Barakatah. What's going on, sir? And so one day our kids are going to look at us and they're going to ask, why are we keeping the Lord's Passover? Right? Or you're a brother and sister just coming into the I.S.U.P.K. You're trying to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. You're trying to learn. You're trying to grow. Right? You're trying to live and not die. Right? You might wonder, why are we keeping the Lord's Passover? What is this about? Right? Keep reading.
Verse 27. That ye shall say, it is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt, when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses. And the people bowed the head and worshipped.
Right. You're going to tell your kids, we're going to tell people watching, right? We're going to tell everybody what the Lord's Passover is about. And in Exodus chapter 12 and verse 27, it tells us, right? We're going to tell our kids because we're keeping this Passover because God killed our enemies. God slaughtered the Egyptians. God slaughtered our enemies for us. And we're keeping this feast because the Most High passed over us on that day. that angel of death passed over us. He didn't kill us, but he slaughtered all the firstborn of the Egyptians, right? He killed our enemies. And when the angel of death stopped at our house, he left us alone, right? But all those Egyptians, he killed them so that we could be free, right? Like this freedom, that's why we're celebrating the Lord's Passover, right? That's what the Passover is about. Let's jump to the book of Psalms, chapter 133 and verse 1.
Come on, sir. Psalms 133, verse 1.
Con.
It's the book of Psalms 133, verse 1. Behold, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity.
Right. Like
Verse
this,
2.
we're gonna stop there. This feast, Passover, that we're about to keep, right? This family, the children of God, Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, under Christ, we're gonna keep the Lord's Passover, and we're gonna dwell together in unity, because we're gonna commemorate the slaughter of the Egyptians. Commemorate getting free from that bondage, getting free from our oppressors, right? We're going to remember what the Most High did for us, how the Most High fought for us, went to war for us, how he freed us from the Egyptians. That's what this Passover is about. And we're going to dwell in unity together. It's a beautiful thing to see brothers dwell in unity, right? This is a Tuesday night brotherhood class. And for me, it's a sad thing to see brothers fight, right? That's something that's always bugged me, right? I got 3 boys. Anytime I see them fighting with each other, that you know what I mean, that irks me. I hate seeing that. But seeing the brothers get together, play together, laugh together, you know what I mean, chop it up together, that's a beautiful thing, right? I bring this verse out a lot because brotherhood, sisterhood, that's everything. Family is everything, right? And things like the Passover, that unites us, that unifies us. When the children of Israel were coming out of Egypt, they came out of Egypt because they followed somebody. They followed Moses. They were unified as a family, right? And it's a beautiful thing to keep the Lord's Passover, right?
Right.
It's a beautiful thing to dwell together, right? Like what's going on in my mind this week is that it's all about the power that the Most High has, right? What the Most High is capable of, and the appreciation I have for being born into this family, right? I didn't have a choice coming out my mother's womb. I was born into this family, right? And I'm grateful for that. It comes with responsibility. It comes with curses if I disobey, but I'm trying to choose life. I'm trying to go to war with myself so that I can obey the Most High, right? So I can be a part of his family, to dwell in unity with brothers, right? Let's jump to where did it go? Let's jump to the book of Mark, chapter 3, and verse 33. Mark 3 and 33.
Come on, sir. Sir, I have it.
Go ahead.
This is the book of Mark 3:33. And he answered them, saying, who is my mother or my brethren?
Right.
Verse
This
34.
is Christ speaking. Keep going.
And he looked round about on them which sat about him, and said, behold, my mother and my brethren. Verse 35. For whosoever shall do the will of God, the same is my brother and my sister and mother.
Right. Like, this Passover coming up, right? These are real brothers and sisters dwelling together in unity. Right? These are men and women who are following Yahweh, following Christ. They're doing the will of our Father, right?
Right.
And I try to picture if, I don't know, if I had maybe my child's around 17 years old and I don't know, they decided that, I don't know, they wanted to live a life of homosexuality. Like, you're not bringing that shit into my house. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're gonna get kicked out of the house real quick, right? As for me and my house, we're gonna serve the Lord, right? In my house, I have rules. We serve the Most High, right? And I'm not gonna tolerate any less. And this is how the Most High looks at us, right? This is how the Most High views his family, right? Christ was telling us, those who do the will of my Father, those are my brothers, my sisters, my mothers, and my fathers. That's who my family is, right? To put it straight, if you're not in the I.S.U.P.K, you're not my family.
Right.
You're not following Christ, you are not my family, right? If you don't have loyalty to I.S.U.P.K, you're not my brother, you're not my sister. Only those who do the will of my Father. And those brothers and sisters, man, this Passover is going to be sweet. And all the Passovers that come year after year after year, they're going to be beautiful. Because brothers and sisters are going to dwell in unity, right? What's it say? I think it's in the book of Malachi, chapter 3. How can two walk together unless they be in agreement? I think that's Malachi 3:6, right? Like, we got to be on one accord. We got to be on the same page. We all got to be under Christ. And when we have righteousness that unifies us, man, that family's sweet, right? Checking in from Houston, Texas. Shalom, Abe Williams. Trooper Awa Warrior. Shalom, Yahbashim and Shabrak Thought for tuning in. Everybody in the chat, I posted the sign-in link. Make sure you sign in. Anybody who's not a trooper, sign in, get those Hebrew benefits. Pay your tithes. Show your loyalty to I.S.U.P.K. Right? Join this family under Christ. Right? Read verse 35 again, Baba Kisha.
Verse 35. For whosoever shall do the will of God, the same is my brother and my sister and mother.
Right. Brothers and sisters in the I.S.U.P.K, we do the will of God. Right? And that's our family. Right? Let's jump to Philippians chapter 1 and verse 21.
Philippians, what was the chapter and verse again? Salakia.
Chapter 1 and verse 21.
Sir, I have it.
Go ahead.
This is the book of Ephesians,
No,
chapter 1.
Salakia, Philippians chapter 1 and verse 21.
Oh, sorry. Salakia. This is Philippians, the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 21. For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain.
Read that again.
For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain.
Right. This is Paul speaking, right? Paul in the New Testament, he wrote a bunch of letters, right? And right here is saying, for me to live is Christ, and to die is gain. Do you know what it means, Trooper Sakad? For him to live is Christ. Can you break that down?
Go on, sir. I would believe that it's saying for me to live is Christ, meaning like follow the way that Christ lived and follow his teachings.
Right? Following his
Would be-
teachings will do what?
that will give you life if you
God.
keep the law and etc.
God, absolutely, right? Like I said before, like imagine you smoke every day, right? You smoke. I'm gonna tell my kids, you're gonna get a hole through your throat, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's death, right? That's misery. That's hell, right? Trying to breathe out of an oxygen tank. If you choose to stay in sin, that life is gonna lead you to death. But if you choose life, you choose to follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. If you're Black, Hispanic, or Native Indian, you're going to get life, right? Read that again.
For to me to live is Christ, and to die is gain.
Right. So what Paul is saying is Paul wanted to die, right? There's a verse in Romans that says Paul had a thorn in his flesh, right? I think it's Romans chapter 7. Paul had a thorn in his flesh, meaning like he had a burden, right? He had a thorn in his flesh that the Most High wouldn't take out. And the Lord wanted Paul to suffer. The Lord wanted Paul to endure. He didn't let Paul quit, right? He didn't relieve Paul of the thing that vexed him every day. That's that thorn in his flesh, right? In the I.S.U.P.K, we have to always be strong. We have to always fight. We say that because that's what God says. That's what the Most High requires of us, right? And Paul asked to remove that thorn from his side, right? He asked the Most High 3 times if he would remove the thorn from his side. And the Lord's answer to Paul was, "My grace is sufficient." The Most High told Paul, "I'm not taking that thorn out of your side," right? He was telling Paul, "You deal with it. Suffer it," because that was Paul's test, right? You're in the I.S.U.P.K. The Lord is not going to end your test until you either pass or you fail, right? Paul said to live is Christ because Paul knew the only way to serve Christ was to be alive. You can't be dead and serve Christ. You have to be alive, right? Mark 3:35 said, "Those who do the will of my Father, those who do the will of God, those are my brothers and my sisters." You're gonna do the will of God, you gotta suffer. You gotta suffer it. You have to pass your test. That thorn that's in your side, you gotta go to war with, right? If you're going to be a part of the UPK family, Christ family, you have to live, right? Read that again.
Philippians 1, verse 21. For to me to live is Christ.
Right? Read.
Verse 22.
No, Salaki. So it says, for me to live is Christ and to die is gain, right? You cannot serve Christ from the grave. You can't be dead and serve Christ. You cannot change your life without serving Christ, right? Like, how else is the world going to be a better place unless you are alive? You can't make the world a better place unless you're alive. You can't Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians how to be a moral people, how to be a family. You can't do that from the grave. You got to be alive, right? Keep reading. Verse 22.
But if I live in the flesh, this is the fruit of my labor. Yet what I shall choose, I will not.
Right.
Verse 23.
But if I, Salaki, slow down. But if I live in the flesh, right? Paul is saying, if I serve myself, if I stay in sin for my own happiness, this is the fruit of my labor, right? Keep reading.
Verse 23. For I have been shaken betwixt two, having a desire to depart and to be with Christ, which is far better.
Right. So Paul was saying, I'll be in a betwixt, right? If I sin, I will die. If I serve Christ, I will live. Like he's in this, he's fighting with this ultimatum, right? And Paul was constantly at war with his flesh, right? This battle that he had inside of him, this warring that he had inside of his mind, right? It was to keep the law. It was to have life or death. This is what Paul was fighting with, right? When it says having a desire to depart, that means to live after the flesh and die, right? To give in to all those carnal temptations, to give in to all those things that you desire to have, all those worldly things, right? Like death for us in the I.S.U.P.K is going back to Christianity, going back to the Christian,
Right.
going back to smoking weed, right? Back to eating pork, back to celebrating Christmas. That's death for us, right? This is the struggle that Paul had to fight to stay in the truth. And this is the fight that all of us in the UPK have to fight, right? Let's go to Romans chapter 7 and verse 23. Because those who do the will of God, those are my brothers and my sisters, right? This is a battle that we have to overcome, right? Romans 7 and verse 23.
The
Go ahead.
book of Romans 7, verse 23. But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members.
Right. So Paul in himself was a fight, right? Paul had a war in his mind. And this war will not stop until you choose a side, right? Like I said, free will, free choice, that's a fallacy, right? You obey the Most High, you have life. You disobey him, you have death, right? But you got to make a choice. You got to choose, right? And this is the test that the Most High gives all of us, right? Like, there's a demon inside of you that wants to die, that wants you to die. There's a demon that wants to kill you, right? But you got to go to war with this demon. You got to battle this demon so that you can live, so that you can have a family, so that you can have freedom, right? So you can dwell together with brethren in unity, right? This is a battle you have to overcome. This is a battle you have to win, right? Yeah, Salakia, one moment, priest. Give me one moment.
Concept.
Yeah, Salakia. Where was I? So I'm saying, you want to be a part of this brotherhood, right? You want to be a part of this family, right? Keeping the Passover together in unity, right? You got to win this battle. You got to win this war. That battle that's in your mind, right? Let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 7 in the Apocrypha.
Like you said, I don't have my pocket.
Okay, no sweat word. I'll grab that. We're gonna go to 2nd Ezra chapter 7, 7 and 57. The 2nd Ezra is in the Apocrypha, chapter 7 and verse 7, chapter 7 and verse 57. And it says, "Then answered he me and said, This is the condition of the battle, which man that is born upon the earth shall fight." Verse 58, "That if he be overcome, he shall suffer, as thou hast said. But if he get the victory, he shall receive the thing that I say." Verse 59, "For this is the life whereof Moses spake unto the people while he lived, saying, Choose thee life, that thou mayest live." Right? Like 2 months ago, I heard a lot of brothers and sisters talking about this Passover demon, right? And like the Most High knows that I have things in myself that need to be corrected, and I'm working towards that perfection, right? I came into the I.S.U.P.K under Commanding General YAHANNA, and I'm learning to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments. I'm rehearsing righteous acts, right? I'm learning to have life. I'm choosing life rather than death, right? And I got to go to war with it. That's what every brother and sister has to do, right?
Right.
But nobody is going to stop me from celebrating the Passover. Nobody is going to stop me from commemorating the Passover with my brothers, right? And I'm going to war so that I can have a family. I'm going to war so that I can have a brotherhood, so that I can have a sisterhood. We have to live in order to be righteous, right? We have to live in order to have this family. right? We got to show loyalty to our king, right? We got to show loyalty to each other. We got to show loyalty to being righteous, right? That's brotherhood. We gain a family by loyalty to the prophets that the Most High sent, right? Commanding General YAHANNA is what unites Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians today. Commanding General
Right.
YAHANNA is teaching us to be perfect. He's teaching us to be righteous. He's teaching us to do the will of God so that we can be brothers and sisters, so that we can be a part of this family under Commanding General YAHANNA in Christ, following the Most High, right? This Passover is all about the slaughter of the Egyptians. This Passover is all about family, getting out of this captivity that we're in today, learning to treat each other as a family, learning how to be a family, right? So I'm gonna share a video. I'm gonna play a quick video, and then we're gonna end the class. Slovakia, just one moment. Just gonna share the video because this is what real brotherhood's about, right? And we're gonna see an example of real brotherhood, true brotherhood, right?
Tip of my people, tip of my people, yeah, tip of my people. For the white man, 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 for the white man. Painted by the Spanish, did a whole lot of damage. Shit was outlandish, banks got branded. Split up all the families, then shipped across the Atlantic. So many died from the famine. Threw the dead bodies over 4 sharks, ate them like salmon. I know you can't stand it. I speak the truth, goddammit. Big business got managed, dig it double back. Came to pick up all the blacks. Whips beat up our back, we never got to relax. The kid set us free, but then you double back without a crack. The type of game that you play, hey, to keep it real, I ain't going for it. Beat a couple court cases, had a run for it. Told my mama if I ever did time, I'ma raise up the whole yard. And my lawyer like, oh Lord, this Honey added more charges, no problem, ain't tripping. Thumbing through the scriptures. Muhammad said the Lord with your boy, that's a small issue. Bounce back out the rebound. UPK got the heat now. They done let me out the leash now, teaching in the streets now. I'm part of lost tribes south, but it started in the east now. Look, tip for my people. Tip for my people. Yeah, tip for my people. Tip for my people. Tip for my people. Yeah, tip for my people. For the white man, 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 for my people. Tip for my people. Yeah, tip for my people. Tip for my people. Tip for my people. Yeah, tip for my people. For the white man, 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 for the white man.
That's right. All the heavy lifting, they call it all right. Keep everybody healthy, keep everybody alive, and take all the heavy lifting when I'm going to clubs and work and help out. This man is indispensable to the there. Right. And the next one is no longer like $1,000. This young man is also five now. Stepping. And the Lord put the Holy Spirit on their name. And when they drew him out of the water, they named him Mike. Guess what they named him? And Lord, did he get the right name? Because he stood up with the Most High. And in standing up with the Most High, he parted the Red Sea. And the entire nation of Israel walked. They want to know why we do. They want to understand why we do what we do. That's right. The autopsy came in today on Stephen Clark. I heard. They said, no, they ain't shooting 20 times. Right. They only hit him 8 times. Right. 6 in the goddamn back. 2 of them 7 his spinal cord. 1 hit his arm, split his arm apart, and 1 in the leg while they claimed he was turning around. Right. Black people protested. Black people upset. Now, I understand how they're upset. They said they showed how his brother ran in the city council and jumped up on the mayor's desk and cursed him the hell out. They upset and they angry. Right. And I understand how they feel. But we're going to learn that lesson from them. Right. And from all the other sisters before her. And Amram and Yoshua and all those brothers and sisters who loved their own people and did not care that they were hated. That they were right. And we're going to call on them. To break the third world war and destroy these nations. So I say to you tonight, I heard a lot of you got your ranks raised. A lot of you got raised up, this, that, the other. That's right. Your camp leaders was trying to get a lot of you up to 10,000. We're going to bring it to 10,000. I held them off. They were fighting for it. I held them off. I told them I got to see a little bit more. I got to see some assignments. I got to see them working in the field. That 10,000 rank is a lot of power. But I'm here to tell you one thing. Whatsoever rank you got, you better go out, man, and do the will of the Most High. There will be only one West.
To the general, to Commander Junior Young, we want to say Shalom, Yahweh. To the generals, captains, officers, troops, and the brothers in school, we want to say Shalom, Yahweh. This is the Lord's Passover. If you're not keeping it, we're rehearsing the righteous acts. You got to go to the place that the Lord wrote his name. The Lord reestablished his truth at 125th, 1 West, Harlem, New York. If you're not keeping the Passover, you're not keeping the commandments. We want to say to the sisters in the school, Shalom, Yahweh Shamar, Allah Hashem Yahweh Shai, Lord in Christ. Make sure you pay your Passover funds and get out here to the Passover next year. The Brotherhood and Commander Yohanna is extending this outstanding amazing. He sent buses all across the nation to get brothers and sisters out here to the Passover. Start preparing now for next year, 2019 Passover. Shalom.
This for my people. This for my people. Fuck the white man, 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 fuck the white man. Painted by the Spanish, did a whole lot of damage. Shit was outlandish, bags got branded. Split up all the families, then shipped across the Atlantic. So many died from the famine. Threw the dead bodies over 4 sharks, ate them like salmon. I know you can't stand it. I spit the truth, goddammit. Big business got managed.
Damn right. Damn right. This Saturday, April 24th, the Lord's annual Passover under Commanding General Yohanna in Houston, Texas. 14149 on Players Street. That's in Houston, Texas, under Commanding General Yohanna. And that's what real brotherhood is. This is what real brotherhood is, right? Under Commanding General Yohanna, following the law, statutes, and commandments under Christ. This is where real brotherhood is. This is where real sisterhood is, right? And this is what we got to go to war for, right? So with that, I say shalom. I'm going to do the security announcements, and then we're going to end the class. We'll salute out, and then we'll end the class. So we are the I.S.U.P.K, start out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There is another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, the brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Show your loyalty to the UPK. Numbers 18 and 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 to 10. Ma'ashra means tenth in the Hebrew. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, please give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund. Free will offering for priests. It's not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like to give. Upcoming holy convocations, like I said, this week and upcoming week is all about the Lord's Passover and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Check in tomorrow for Wednesday night law class. Learn more about the Passover. Check in for Friday, Lashua and Kadash class, and Saturday for the scripture breakdown. Probably a lot of live events going down for the Lord's Passover. And so with that, we're going to salute out. We're going to give a courtesy salute to the brothers. Men of Israel, Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak. Yahba Shimei Ashai Barakatham. To all the brothers. Yadim Matah, and which means hands down. We're going to give a courtesy salute to all the sisters. Men of Israel, Imagine Shabbat. Imagine Barak. Yahweh Shamar Alatha B'Hashem Yahushai, to all the sisters.
Yahweh Shamar Alatha B'Hashem Yahushai.
And with that, class is dismissed.